into the bed sheets hanging on the line, and were gone and away. So the police were left empty-handed, foiled again, embarrassed. But that wouldn't be the first nor the last time that Charlie made his escape. He was pretty good at it.
By 1930, Charles Pretty Boy Floyd was a household name. He was accused of committing every crime across America, from bank robberies to murders. Charlie Floyd now had a price on his head.
Nobody knows for sure how many banks Charlie Floyd robbed in his lifetime. He robbed many, maybe 40, 50, 60, maybe more, maybe less. Mostly country banks. They didn't have a lot of money in them.
Throughout American history, once a particular outlaw got a grand reputation, Jesse James, for example, Billy the Kid, in this case, Charlie Floyd, then everybody who suffered a robbery, every bank that was robbed or held up, wanted to attribute that to none other than the #1 outlaw of the day. Dozens and dozens of bank holdups were attributed to Pretty Boy Floyd himself. Nobody wanted to admit they'd been robbed by some nondescript criminal.
While no one could prove that Charlie committed many of these crimes, there was one incident that would forever label him as a killer.
We know for sure that on April the 9th, 1932, Charlie Floyd killed a man, killed him dead. A good man named Irv Kelly. Former lawman turned bounty hunter, and he and some others set up an ambush for Charlie out at the Hardgraves Farm in Bixby, Oklahoma, outside of Tulsa.
Charlie arrived at the farm in the wee hours of the morning for what he thought was a secret rendezvous with his wife Ruby and son Dempsey.
We don't really know what happened, but Irv Kelly leveled a submachine gun at Charlie Floyd. Charlie Floyd immediately opened up with his .45, and Irv Kelly let loose with a submachine gun. 4 of 5 bullets that Charlie Floyd fired found their mark, and Irv Kelly fell dead. Before he did, though, 4 rounds that he'd fired from that submachine gun struck Charlie Floyd.
Painful as they were, Charlie's wounds weren't life-threatening. Though Charlie recovered, he never forgot his killing of Irv Kelly.
And I think it bothered him. He talked about it. He talked about it in some of the few interviews he gave to newspaper reporters. And he discussed it because he knew he left behind kids, but he said it was the old stories, either killed or be killed, and he felt like he had to do it. That's the only for sure killing I know Charlie Floyd did.
Right or wrong, many people dismissed Charlie's killing of Irv Kelly as justified self-defense. They felt that if anything, Charlie helped more people than he robbed or killed.
He gave money to people, not only kinfolk, but to other people as well. We tracked down an incident where he actually brought money, groceries, to families that weren't going to have a Christmas. They just didn't have anything at all. The Depression was on, times were tough. It's not to justify Charlie Floyd. He was a bank robber, and he did kill people, but there were some good sides to him too, and on some of those days out in the Oklahoma countryside.
I've heard that he did tear some deeds up of people's farms that the bank had, and I know of people that he helped with money. And anybody, well, one thing, if you're on the run and you got people you have to have people hiding you. You have to be very generous with them, or somebody might turn you in. And I think that's one of the reasons he got that Robin Hood thing, because he was very generous with everybody that helped him.
An old-timer said that the car drove up, and Charlie got out. He said, I'm kind of hungry. Any chance of sharing a meal? He said, I have barely enough to feed my family. He said, if I had enough, you know, you're more than welcome. Charlie said, I understand. Shook hands with him, walked off, and he looked down, he had a $20 bill in his hand.
In Charlie's beloved Oklahoma hills, he was a hero. To the working-class farmer, Charlie couldn't have been more honest.
But one time, he drove up in front of our house, and I went out and talked to him a minute. He said he just run over one of Miss Smith's hens down there, chickens out in the dirt road. He run over one of them hens and killed it. He stopped and paid her for it, and he had the hen in the car. Take it home and cook it, I guess.
The people's love for Charlie was most evident when he robbed his hometown bank.
The most memorable bank job of all was when he drove right down into the heart of Sallisaw, parked, got out. Charlie walked into the barber shop, knew everybody there getting shaves and trims, shook hands all around. They said, what are you doing in town? He said, well, I'm here to rob the bank. Give 'em hell. And that's what he gave 'em.
Word spread quickly. Much of the town showed up to witness this grand event, including many of Charlie's family.
My father told his grandfather, I'm going to rob the bank today, Grandpa, and I want you to stay over there by the train station, and you can watch and see what happens. So he robbed the bank, and they got away without any incident or out getting shot or anything. So the next time he saw his grandfather, he said, Grandpa, did you see me rob the bank? He said, no. He said, I got sleepy and went to sleep and missed the whole thing.
But things turned for Charlie. After months of successful holdups, he and his new bank robbing partner, Adam Ricchetti, stumbled into the wrong city at the wrong time. Kansas City was about to experience one of the most famous crimes in its history.
The cavernous Union Station in Kansas City, standing there to this day like an empty old veteran on that fine, warm June morning in 1933, was the scene of this crime when a captive Frank Jelly Nash, who was a very well-known gangster of the day, had been taken prisoner and was being transported under escort back to Leavenworth in Kansas.
He's being taken out of the station to be placed in a car surrounded by federal and local officers. Suddenly, 3 men with submachine guns burst onto the scene and began raking the automobile and the officers with submachine gun fire. It was a bloody confrontation in broad daylight on a Saturday morning. Nash himself was killed.
He died in either an ambush to shut him up or to free him, and so did several lawmen. They died as well. And this was big news across the country. I mean, big headlines.
J. Edgar Hoover and the Bureau of Investigation, soon to be called the FBI, were outraged. One of their men was down. They blamed Charles Floyd for the shooting. But Floyd wasn't there. He wasn't even close. The massacre was, in fact, a hit organized by local organized criminals who were in concert with the politicians in the community, for Kansas City was incredibly corrupt in those days. But it was easier for Hoover to blame the notorious Floyd than it was to go after the politicians and the gangsters who really ran everything in Kansas City.
Mr. Hoover, probably the most ambitious man of this century in this country. In his rush to judgment, rush to justice, he wanted to solve this crime, and this crime was very important to him because with the death of these officers, he was able to win new considerations and enhance his position and enhance his own bureau.
My father wasn't a hired killer. He robbed banks, and he got all the money he needed from robbing banks. Why would he take a fee for killing some policemen that were trying to transfer another criminal? You know, I don't think he ever had anything to do with Nash. I never heard Nash's name mentioned in my life, except with the Kansas City massacre.
But J. Edgar Hoover's mind was made up. Charles Arthur Pretty Boy Floyd